This was a nice little fun surprise. On Saturday night, it was announced from ESPN. Not so much of a surprise. We kind of saw this coming, but Shakur Stevenson versus Frank Martin purse bid is set for September 5th. For those that don't know what a purse bid is, they get ordered by the WBC. Frank Martin is ranked fourth by the WBC. Stevenson is the mandatory for Haney's belt, who's moving up. So Shakur is with Top Rank. Frank Martin's, I'm pretty sure, with PBC, or I could be wrong, or maybe Errol Spence's promotion. So they have until September 5th to come up with an agreement to make a fight. If not, then it goes to like an arbiter and arbitration, and you figure out a split. But it seems like we're going to see Shakur versus Frank Martin. Another wrinkle to this, Chris, is that Martin's ranked fourth by the WBC. It went like Lomachenko turned down the fight because obviously he wants to take more time or whatever. So then they go down to the next one, and it's Isaac Cruz. He turned it down too because he's probably fighting Gervonta Davis in a rematch in December. So they go down the list one more. It's Frank Martin. Frank Martin's Shakur Stevenson. That's a fun fight. There's a lot of like narratives here. Obviously, Shakur wants that big fight. He's kind of with Terrence Crawford. Frank Martin is with Errol Spence. That's kind of fun in there. On top of it, I think it'll be a fun fight, and we figure out who's the WBC champ at 135.
I like it. Frank Martin streaking over the past couple of years. He got a couple marquee wins. He beat that kid Michael Rivera, which was a good fight. He really took it to him. Yeah, he had a tough fight his last time out, but that's fine. He's a young guy. He's coming up.
He's not that
I like
young,
this
though.
fight a lot. What's that?
He's not that young. I think he's 20.
Well, I mean, young in terms of early in his career.
Right.
Like this is like he's not as well known. He's been getting attention. This is going to help his profile. I think this is a good fight. I think that he's physical enough to make it a fight. I obviously I got Shakur against beating everybody. I think he is the guy to beat. So I don't see Frank Martin beating him, but I think he can make it interesting at times, especially with his physicality. But I think the class is just going to rise as the rounds go on. But listen, I'm happy anytime Shakur Stevens is fighting. So I want him to be busy. It sucks that he's only going to fight 2 times this year, which is not good for a champion at his level and his age. But listen, we got Shakur in. I'm happy. He's fighting a tough guy. I think a deserving guy.
Yeah.
I don't have any gripes about this fight, especially when you put it the way you did. That listen, he went for Lomachenko. Lomachenko didn't fight happen. Went for Isaac Cruz. That fight doesn't happen. Who's the next in line? Frank Martin.
So it should be.
He's deserving. Could be a good fight. That's how it should be. Exactly. Meritocracy is not generally how this sport works, but it is in this case. And I like that. And plus, I just like the fight. I like Frank Martin. I'm a fan of Frank Martin and his style.
Yeah.
I like his physicality. I like his boxing skills. I like his grit. He comes in great shape. I think this is going to be, a great fight, a good matchup. Oh, maybe not necessarily a great fight, but a great matchup.
Yeah, Stevenson, I expect to be a heavy favorite, but like you said, I think Martin's going to give him some tense moments, or at least I think so. You're talking about a guy in Stevenson who very rarely gets outlanded in rounds, very rarely gets hit. Him and Bivol are 2 of the best defenders in all of boxing. But if he wins this title, Shakur, and he wins this fight, and then there should be no more. Well, there's always going to be naysayers, but I mean, it's a worthy fight. It's not like he's fighting a guy we never heard of who's ranked 4th in the WBC. Stevenson wins a belt, and he already got everyone on top of him because of not taking that deal to fight Haney, or excuse me, to fight Haney, yeah. And also, everyone just seems to be out for Shakur lately. It's insane to me. The guy just wants big fights. They think he's corny or he's too attached to Crawford and all that stuff. That's just internet stuff. But I think if Stevenson wins and he beats Martin, that's a good win. That's to pick up another title, and hopefully it sets up bigger fights. I mean, there's a lot of fights out there. Isaac Cruz fighting Tank. No one really wants to see that fight. I mean, Isaac Cruz didn't look good in that last fight on the undercard of Crawford and Spence. I mean, no one was even watching it towards the end of that fight. His stock is going down. All he's waiting for is that Tank rematch. I think he's just right place, right time, at the right promotion to fight Tank. But it's like a de facto tournament. Do I think if Tank wins, is he going to fight the winner of Martin Shakur? Probably not. But we're seeing like a little tournament or top 4. I know Lomachenko should be in there at 135 and some other guys, but at least we have some movement at lightweight, and we're building towards something.
Yeah, and again, Shakur being active is good. He gets a win here. Shakur's one of those guys that no one's going to fight him unless they have to. and is going to be less and less chances to move around him soon. And the more wins he gets, especially with marquee guys and name guys like a Frank Martin, the more titles he picks up, he'll be more in the driver's seat. And that's really what's going. He's going to have to force guys to fight him because he's that guy. He's that good. His style is that difficult to deal with. Nobody really wants to fight that kind of guy. You'd much rather fight a banger than a guy who's going to make you miss every goddamn punch you throw. So I get it. I don't like when people avoid guys. I don't want to fight certain guys, but Shakur is going to be one of those guys who's going to be avoided throughout his career. But the more momentum he gets as his career goes on, he's going to be able to make those big fights.
What about Tank versus Cruz? Are you excited for that?
Listen, I was more excited for that fight before his last fight against Cabrera. He looked mediocre as being nice in that fight. He didn't show much power. He hit that kid with absolutely everything. Either that kid has a chin going back to like the 1920s fighters, or Cruz just doesn't hit that hard because he was cracking him full blown with leaping left hooks on the point of his chin, and Cabrera walked through everything. So, but it was an ugly fight, which is Cabrera's style. He is a stinker. But yeah, no, I was not excited for anything a Cruz is going to do moving forward after that fight, especially against a guy like Tank.
Yeah, so we're seeing a little movement at 135. Stevenson Martin, fun fight. At least we'll see Tank fight. It'll be 3 fights for Tank. Cruz does have that. I took Gervonta Davis 12 rounds. He's knocked out pretty much everyone besides me. He's got that going for him, so we'll see. It's just rumored. It hasn't been anything from Showtime or PBC about Gervonta definitely being back. I know there are a few holds right now in Vegas for PBC pay-per-views. Spence Crawford rematch being one of them. I think Crawford has a few more days to activate that. Gervonta, one of them. Wilder, maybe. Andy Ruiz seems to be pricing himself out yet again. I think the latest was he set a price of $10 million for Andy Ruiz. So that's crazy. But you can only negotiate what you ask for. So $10 million, I don't think he's going to get that. But there are a lot of fights towards the end of the year that haven't really materialized yet, but they will.